Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins drop 3 to the Milwaukee Brewers at home. A much different series than the first time they saw this club a while back. Dan, it's series like this that make me rethink this whole 6 games in total for rivalry week.
Well, they kept throwing around that stat, at least on the radio cast, of that the Brewers hadn't swept the Twins in Minnesota since 1996 in a 3-game series. It's like, well, that's because they've been playing 2-game series for so long. So it was one of those kind of fake stats, I thought, for a while there. But yeah, the Brewers looked a whole lot better than the Twins in the series, for sure.
Well, and I guess their offense hadn't been producing nearly as well, and so there's all these stats going on about how many runs they scored this series. A little embarrassing that it's at the hands of our Twins here, Dan.
It is. There was a stat like the 26 runs that they had scored in the first 2 games were the most in baseball in a long time without a home run. Like, they were just putting rallies together. They didn't even have to try to swing for the fences. And I think it was a stylistic difference between the two teams. Twins were trying to crush doubles and home runs, and the Brewers were just happy to hit singles and steal bases and bunt.
You make it sound like the Twins were trying to do something. I think I have a little bit of, I have some disagreement, Dan, that the Twins were trying to do anything here.
Well, this was funny. So I was driving back from Portland today, and so I was listening to the radio cast, and Dan Gladden had an interview with Pat Murphy, the Brewers manager, I think the day before, and they were playing some clips of it. And I think something about those two hanging out together seemed to make Dan Gladden very pro-Brewer in the 3rd game. It was, the curious part was that he kept just praising all of these things that the Brewers were doing and kind of ignoring the Twins weren't playing well at the time. This is when they were down early. But, he was praising their base running, their ability to bunt, their willingness to, throw pitches over the plate for strikes. But it was kind of like, David, it was like he was an elf singing the praises of Sauron while standing in Mordor. Like, that's what it felt like to me.
Ogres are like onions.
I suppose I should have known better. I heard elf. I immediately went Santa. I should have known.
Yeah, the other one. Yeah.
Yes, I should have known.
Like Legolas or Galadriel, like Glorfindel.
We should. How do we not have any Lord of the Rings sounders, Dan?
It's an oversight. Maybe we can work some in. We'll figure that out. We'll write that wrong.
Yeah. Okay, well, Dan, we've put it off long enough. Let's go ahead and jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
17-6, Dan. Why don't you go ahead and
take
talk?
The leader. So Jacob Misiorowski, a rookie pitcher, maybe kind of a Paul Skeens type of guy, he threw a lot of fastballs over 100 miles an hour, and there were a lot of stats about that. He put Willie Castro on his bottom swinging at a pitch once. 6 perfect innings for Misiorowski. He started his major league career with 11 shutout innings. They may have been perfect. Somebody can check me on that stat, but he's had a remarkable start. So it wasn't a good outing here for the Twins bats, shall we say?
No.
I can keep going here, David.
I was going to sit back and I really didn't want to talk about
this. Well,
this.
there were a couple good things. All right,
yeah,
so I'm going to talk about the couple good things. So Buxton walked, and then Walner hit a home run in the 7th to put the Twins on the board. But by then, the game was 8-0, and so it didn't much matter. The Brewers scored once in the 4th, twice in the 6th. That knocked Joe Ryan from the game. Topa gets the 7th. He gets an out, but then allows 4 singles and a walk. And then Joey Wentz enters to clean up the mess, and he allows a bases-clearing double to Christian Yelich, so it's 8-0. The next inning, we'll talk more about this later, but Joey Wentz gave up another bases-clearing double to Christian Yelich in the top of the 8th. How is this even possible? So, more to say there. Jonah Bride does come in, makes his semi-weekly appearance in the 9th, allows 5 more runs, so he's got an ERA of 15. Yelich finishes 4 for 6 with a career-high 8 RBI. Misiorowski's 2-0. The Brewers fans are rejoicing. There were some interesting things in the bottom of the 9th. I'm actually going to talk about that in a later segment, too, because I thought it was a fascinating inning. And I really think we can just go on to game 2, David.
Yeah, let's keep moving here. It doesn't get better though,
Oh,
Dan.
it doesn't.
Like we're gonna keep these short because nobody wants to relive these, Dan. Game 2, Twins lose this one 9-0, an absolute mess of a ball game. SWR, he pitches well enough. Honestly, like I'm a little bit frustrated here because he did decent. Like he was throwing the ball decently well, but the rest of the team, Dan, forgot how to play defense. But so SWR goes 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks, and even the 3 earned runs. Like, if you're very new to baseball, earned runs mean they actually count against the pitcher, so it can't be blamed on the fielding behind the pitcher. Even in this instance, sometimes I think that is even misleading even more because that means that the guy has to see extra batters who he wouldn't have already had to see. So, and I realize you can't do that. You can't predict what would have happened, obviously. But sometimes I do think in this instance, I think he pitched better than 3 earned runs, if that makes sense.
And he gave him 6 innings, which is something that they desperately needed here, too, out of a guy like SWR.
Absolutely. So top of the first, the comedy errors starts early, Dan. So Frelick hits a single, Yelich singles, because Yelich, all that Yelich does is gets on base, Dan. That's all he does.
He makes it look so easy. Like, they just made him look like an all-star. And I know that he's been an all-star before, but man, they can't make
He's been an MVP, Dan.
Yeah, that's true.
He's been an MVP.
He's very good.
Yes, he's very good. Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes we don't track the NL as much as
He's the one.
He is the one, Dan. But so Yelich steals second. Jeffers launches the ball into center field. I mean, nowhere near anybody in the middle infield positions.
Clever girl.
Not clever girl. The opposite
He was
of
trying.
clever.
Maybe he thought that Byron was backing it up more closely and that he would get him on the, tricking him into thinking that the ball had gone past Buxton or something like that. Maybe that's what the Twins need to do defensively is to play the hidden ball trick.
Okay, moving on. Yelich goes to third. Frelick scores on that overthrow. The Brewers add one on a sac fly, so it's Brewers up 2-0. I would love to tell you folks there's some redemption coming for the Twins, but no. Top of the second, runners on first and second. Ortiz hits a grounder to Bride at third, who flips it to Lee, who's covering second. The runner is called safe on a head-first slide. Now, the slide doesn't allow Lee to throw to first, and so then the bases are loaded. There's a sac fly and a single. Brewers are up 4-0. But the interesting part here, Dan, is the slide into second base that prevented Lee from throwing to first. They sort of got rid of these slides that break up the throw to first.
Right.
And this was, he slid into the bag. So I sort of have to ask, was this Brooks Lee sort of not in a great position, seeing where the runner was in order to throw to first? What's so funny is the head-first slide beat the throw to second from Bride. So it's like, this is a double whammy here because instead of a double play, you got no outs.
I also think the fact that he was safe, you kind of lose a little bit of the argument that the slide messed up the throw to first. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's more the issue.
Well, and you see it now, too. You see it every now and again where a guy runs through second base, assuming he's going to be out.
I thought they changed that rule, though. I think they said you can't do that anymore.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You can't run past it. I mean, because it's a legitimate thing, but I think they squeezed that out of the rules. I believe. Somebody could fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
We'll have to revisit that. I did not know that they changed those rules. Anyway, I just thought that play was interesting and a little bit wonky. In today's game, you just don't see that often. Super quiet middle innings. The Twins' offense is just nowhere to be found. It's nowhere. Just, folks, go to the game summary and just scroll. Just scroll and you can see all of the out, single, out. It's not fun. Anyway, top of the eighth, Brewers add 3 runs on a fielding error from Harrison Bader, who Gold Glove winning outfielder. And we all have tough days at the office, Dan.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
It was a rough time, Dan. So you can watch the replay. It's weird. You think he's going to catch this relatively routine fly ball, takes his eye off the ball for a minute, and it goes over his glove. Not good. That allows the Brewers more or less to add those 3 runs, and then they had 2 more in the ninth. Again, it doesn't matter. But the Brewers win this one 9-0. It wasn't a great look for the Twins defensively. It's hard to say, Dan, if it's worse offensively or defensively when you're looking at this game. It's just all bad.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of their worst performances of the season, aside from what SWR tried to do on the mound there. So, yeah, not a good look. And then in game 3, so the Brewers score 9 again, but the Twins score 8. It's 9-8 now. The Twins were playing catch up basically the whole game, and it was a pretty exciting game. We're going to talk later about Rocco's choice to use an opener here, to use Danny Coulomb in that situation. Now, the Twins do take a lead in this early. After a first inning run, Buxton answers with a leadoff home run, his 13th of his career to start the game. And then a couple hits later, the Twins actually have another run. They do leave them loaded when Clemens lines out and Jeffers grounds out. A missed opportunity there that any missed opportunity of the series really came back to bite them. Festa comes in as the true starter and then gives up a leadoff home run to Rhys Hoskins. So it's tied 2-2. Just a middle pitch there. Well, it wasn't necessarily middle, but it was in a spot you cannot give Rhys Hoskins a baseball to hit that hard.
No, it was running in on him middle low. Any guy who's a power hitter from that side of the plate is going to hit that ball out.
So it's tied at 2. Top of the third, the Brewers continue their production on 3 straight singles, a walk, and a sac fly. They're really good at that. So they're up 4-2. And then they added that fourth on a wild pitch by Festa, which all these things come back to bite them as the Twins mount a comeback. They get one back in the bottom of the fourth on a Ryan Jeffers solo home runs. It's 5-3. And then at the top of the fifth, they continue to own Festa, a walk, a double, a 3-run homer from Bryce Terang on a 1-2 count running in. And then another run after that on 3 straight singles, and it's 9-3. And you think, probably done.
Probably done. So my father was over to watch the game. My father-in-law was here as well. And so I have the Twins game on, and it's my kiddo's birthday, and we're all having a nice time. But my father, we had this conversation today, and I said, Dad, I would know nothing different had I been born and raised, and you told me that we were Yankee fans. Or you told me we were Dodger fans. Anything but the Twins. And my dad said, well, I just felt that you being miserable is what's best for you. It's really
That's a good comeback there. Yeah.
So watching this Twins game happen, and my dad saying it's kind of nice to not have to watch these games because they don't matter. And I'm like, okay, Dad, come on now. There's still a lot of season yet. He's like, no. But anyway, a classic. My dad is as Minnesota of a sports fan as you can get. Probably even more negative in the grand scheme of things. Yes. Bottom of the sixth, the Buxton homers again. So Twins are down 9-4. You still kind of think this is over. But then the bottom of the seventh, Dan, things start to happen. So France walks, Lee singles, Correa hits an RBI single, Bride walks, Jeffers grounds out, but it allows Lee to score. So now the Twins are down 6-9. Then Bader flies out to right fielder Frelick. He almost misses it, which would have been, again, some sort of... It
was a windy day. I feel like every pop-up was an adventure for these teams.
So it's not irony, right? If Bader dropped the ball the day before, and then he got a hit because the right
poetic
fielder
justice, I think is what we would call that. Yeah,
but it's not justice because there's no... Bader isn't deserving of this hit. Like, he is
true.
owed it injustice.
Poetic mercy, then maybe that would be the deal.
Poetic mercy, yes. English teacher, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, yes. So it was a weird play. But bottom of the eighth now, the Twins get within 1 on a 2-run homer from Ty France.
After all, miss, this is France.
So the Twins are only down 1 run at this point. It's 9-8. There's 2 outs. Lee on first, Correa on first, and then Bride strikes out to end the threat, and it was not a good at-bat from Bride. And it was a little frustrating. Trevor McGill's on the mound. Like, is he good? Is he good at baseball, Dan?
Well, he's a former Twin who went on somewhere. We keep running into former Twins playing, like, closer positions for the team. Emilio Pagan, I think one of the Rogers twins, whichever one played for the Twins. Very confusing.
We'll talk more about the bottom of the ninth because the Twins did have a chance a little bit later. The Twins tally 18 hits in this game, Dan, and they still don't win.
Yeah,
help me, Dan Thompson.
I can't help you with that. But one thing I can help you with, David, or rather, I know a place that can help you, is Cub Foods. David, summer is here. It's prime grilling season. It's a time to gather the neighbors for a good old backyard barbecue. And lucky for you, Cub Foods is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. With everyday fresh products and a wide selection, you'll be in great shape to host the next grill out with all your backyard essentials. You can grab your fresh produce, deli meats, party trays, and bakery all in one stop. With over 100 locations in Minnesota, check out your local Cub on your next shopping trip for all your summertime essentials.
Touch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I mean, we're going to talk a lot about this guy, Dan, but I don't know that anybody else is going to be picked in Puckett's Picks first for the foreseeable future. The listeners took Buxton, who had 15. They also get the bonus because Buxton outscored. I don't know that he only outscored everyone on the team. He might have outscored the rest of the team.
Yeah, who can blame him? A couple home runs there and just quality at bats, getting on base. We'll talk more about him later. I picked Wallner, who had 3 points. Hogs picked Correa, who had 3. You picked Larnach, who barely played.
I guess he had a left hand something, and then now Willie's down with a left hand something.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
I hope that your doctor gives you more description than you've got a left hand something, a knee something. Yeah. Anyway, so 0 points for Larnach. That moves the season standings. So the listeners in 4th place, but now they have 5 points. You are in 3rd with 6.5. I'm in 2nd with 7, and Hogue still has a comfortable lead with 10.5.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I mean, I got to give it to Buxton here. 4 for 10. He's a dangerous man, Dan Thompson. He is a dangerous man. We'll talk more about him a little bit later. But right now, he is, I saw a meme on X, and it was like Byron Buxton and the Twins right now. And it's like a trailer park that has a little, what do they call those overhangs that you park cars under?
Oh,
and
man,
it's like
you're
a
giving me
brand
all
new
kinds
McLaren.
of weird questions.
Like just,
yeah.
So it's the Twins as the trailer, and then like Buxton as the McLaren next to the trailer. It's pretty funny.
Oh, his OPS is 928 now. His average is 285. He'll be an all-star. I think he's probably going to be the Twins' only one.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, Dan. Who do you have here as your beast?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Brooks Lee at the plate. He looks great. Now, I know that his... Why are you chuckling? At the plate.
Yeah, it was very important that you said at the plate because I saw this in the notes and I was absolutely ready to destroy you.
Okay.
He's got a back problem.
Poor guy.
He's also that sounder. What it should say is he's got an error problem. Is what he should.
I'll get to that. So, but at the plate, he had 4 hits in Game 3. A couple of them are just, well, I'll say it this way. He just gets the bat on the ball. And that kind of bat to ball skills, it's not Luis Arraez like quite yet. But I like having a guy like that in the lineup. I think teams need guys like that in the lineup. I know his hitting streak ended after Game 1, so at 19, which I'm going to come back to that a little bit later as well. But again, as a batter, Brooks Lee is a beast right now.
Absolutely. So I think it makes sense then, Dan, for you to do your bench to start us off.
So my bench is going to go to Brooks Lee as a fielder, right? So I just think, maybe he's not going to be a third baseman. He looks a lot more comfortable at second than he does at third. But he had they weren't even all dumbs exactly in Game 3, but they called his name 3 plays in a row early on in this game where there was a grounder that I think they ended up actually taking the error away from him, but he probably should have had the error. And then the second one, somebody bunted toward him and he couldn't get to the ball. And then Christian Yelich bounced a baseball over Brooks Lee. So just wasn't his best showing out there. Do you think that he's going to get more comfortable? Do you think this is an issue, or is this just kind of a bad series for him?
You know what they say? Fool me once, strike 1. But fool me twice, strike 3.
It's not great, Dan, when you have to double check that it wasn't a replay.
Right.
Like you're watching the same plays happen. The Yelich thing, I don't know that it bounced over him. It sort of bounced on him. I don't even know how to describe. Like he's going back to play. He kind of falls backwards. It bounces and then hits his knee and then goes off into the distance, Dan. And he has to go chase it down. But it is
the hot corner, right? Like maybe he's just,
especially today, Dan. It was 96 out.
Oh, man,
but I think that he grew up fielding first, I'm sure, right? Like that was all that his dad drilled into him was fielding first, and the contact skills with the bat, like you talked about here. I think it was a rough day for Brooks, and just like Chris Paddock likes the heat, maybe Brooks Lee is not a fan of the heat, Dan.
Anyhow, who's on your bench?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to the bullpen, but not counting Jonah Bride. So we're going to give Bride a little bit of a pass here because he's just out there to protect the bullpen. Which I got to be honest, with the way that the bullpen performed, I think the bullpen should be out there doing their own dirty work here. But so you take out Bride, 13 earned runs, Dan. Now Sands, don't know what's going on there. Coulomb, come on, dude. And then you have Topa, Topa's just sort of he's more or less a cleanup guy. And then Wentz, who we picked up, Dan, honestly, to be Jonah Bride, but an actual pitcher in name, right? So he's like a pitcher in name only. So what is that, a Pinot? That's a type of wine, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah.
He's a Pinot Grigio. That's what Wentz is. But he's a pitcher. I guess you can put him on the mound. But the bullpen, Dan, does not deserve any praise. They should all have stayed on the bench. I would have rather watched Jonah Bride out there, even when the Twins were only down 1 run. Put Bride out there at this rate.
Well, that actually transitions really well into the next segment.
Rocco's Rewind.
So, Game 1, bottom of the 9th. I'm going to rename this segment just for today, Murphy's Moves, to think about Pat Murphy, the manager for the Milwaukee Brewers, because I want to focus on what he did here in the bottom of the 9th. So the situation is this, and really the only important thing here is that Brooks Lee has not yet extended his hitting streak, but he's pretty deep due up here. So Brewers outfielder Jake Bauers comes in, and as the Twins broadcast pointed out, he has in his 9 career pitching appearances. He's a position player. 8 innings, just 2 runs allowed. Until the Twins here roughed him up. They scored 4 against him, which allowed Brooks Lee to get to base to extend his hitting streak to 19 games. But if you watch the replay, and I don't blame you people if you were not watching the Twins game here and it was 19-2 in the bottom of the 9th on a Friday night. Like, I assume you had other things to do. But I was watching it. And so
for
anyway,
you, the listener, the trials and tribulations we go through, Dan, for this show.
So I was trying to think, because as Brooks Lee kind of smacked a lofting baseball, smack is not the right word, just lofted a baseball between shortstop and third, a couple things stood out to me. One was the lack of effort from Joey Ortiz to reach out for that baseball. And the other was the lack of effort from Caleb Durbin to reach out for that baseball. So here's what I went back and did a little research. So Brewers manager Pat Murphy coached at Arizona State in 2009. And that's also in that year, Larry Lee, Brooks Lee's father, coached at Cal Poly, where he's been since 2003. And they met in the NCAA regionals that year. Now, they didn't actually play each other. They were in the same pod. And then I believe Cal Poly lost to somebody else. So they didn't actually play Arizona State, but they would have seen them play. And I think that interaction built up the mutual respect between Murphy and Lee. And so he waited all these years to have a moment to repay Larry Lee for his respect and kindness. And so in this situation, Murphy told Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, and Jake Bauers to make sure that Brooks Lee was able to get a hit to extend his hitting streak, David. I think that's how it happened. You disagree?
You serious?
I think it
Dan,
all makes sense, David.
If we had a tinfoil hat sounder, this would be the time to play.
this.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Anyway.
This is not a
There's no other
moment,
explanation
Dan.
here.
This is
Jake Bauers, I mean, I really thought that maybe this was going to actually work in the Twins' favor. Also, Matt Wallner, in maybe one of the most embarrassing moments of his career, struck out playing against Jake Bauers on a pitch called an ephus. I had to look this up, like a 57-mile-an-hour ephus. Is that the name of the pitch?
No, well, it's like when a guy throws super slow. Like, Kershaw would do that every now and again.
I didn't know there was a term for it. I just thought it was like a slow pitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, I learned that.
No.
So that's a good Scrabble word right there.
Good. Well, I don't
It's
know
actually
if that's
not
gonna
worth
play
that many
legally in
points,
Scrabble.
but-
You need a very specific dictionary in play here. So can we use the MLB glossary dictionary for
Sure, why
Scrabble
not?
today?
Yeah.
That'll be great. It's like a whole bunch of 3-letter acronyms is all that you're
ERA.
playing with all over the board.
Well, I guess that's a word on its own. I guess that doesn't have to be a
Yes.
problem.
Era. You don't understand what we're
Whip.
doing.
But that's a
Okay.
word too.
Anyway,
All right. Anyway, what do you have here for Rocco and not for Pat?
yeah, I'm going to talk more about Rocco. I applaud Rocco for trying the opener strategy to get through those first 3 of the Brewers who have been quite good. Yes, it didn't work. I understand that it didn't work. Coolum allowed a run, but my favorite part was that Rocco said in a pregame interview, we're getting behind early, so we're going to use an opener to prevent that from happening. Well, obviously that didn't go as planned. And it was super funny. Chris Atterbury on the radio broadcast I was listening at this point, he as they score, so Yelich comes around to score, you can tell the disappointment and just the should have worked in his voice. This seems like a foolproof plan, and Coolum got 2 quick outs, and then it's he's so sad. But so Rocco, good for you for trying something. Bummer that it didn't
Yeah,
work.
I thought it was a good idea too. What else you gonna do? They also said, I think pregame, that they got to try something. This is going to be on the table. I think the one criticism that I could have of it, and they made this actually point on the radio broadcast too, was, are you hurting David Festa's confidence here by I don't think the Twins are going to be a playoff team right now. It doesn't look that way unless guys like Festa can turn it around. So is there an argument to be made where you can say, yeah, you just got to let Festa start and figure out how to get those guys out?
Dan, every episode you seem to flip-flop between what's confidence boosting and what's not. Pulling SWR at 53 pitches was a confidence boost somehow. Leaving Festa out there in order to have just runs racked up against him.
He did that for Joe Ryan, right?
Somehow.
And look what happened with Joe Ryan's in a good place right now mentally.
This is the long-term Rocco strategic moves.
Yeah,
is what
exactly.
you're saying, for
Rocco's
confidence
thinking about
building.
2027 right now.
Okay, Dan. All right, well let's keep going here. Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
I'm actually going to go back to game 1 again, but the top of the 8th this time. So this is the moment, again, where Joey Wentz is trying to eat innings, and, he's good on him, right? He's trying to help the team here, and he gives up a second bases clearing double to Christian Yelich. And then Duran comes in for some reason to come get an out, like to save the embarrassment of the game that already is embarrassing.
No, so this did, Matthew Leach, the beat writer for the Twins, did clarify this was just because Duran
I figured, right,
in like 4 games.
So yes, but I appreciate you bringing that up because I think that all of that is just a testament to the state of the Twins right now. That the time to use Duran is in a mop-up role to keep his arm fresh because they won 2 of their last 11 games or something like that. And then of course Jonah Bride coming in, and I think he's made more appearances over the last week and a half than Duran, it seems.
I'm trying to say this gently, Dan. I would say really try and enjoy Duran on the mound in these moments.
No way. What are you suggesting?
I'm just saying you should very much enjoy these moments, Dan. Embrace them, hold them dear in your heart, because I do not know that come August, we're going to be seeing him at Target Field with the Twins.
Oh my gosh. All right, move on. What's your moment here?
Game 3, bottom 9. Okay. The Twins have a chance. Bader leads off the inning. Bader hits a double. The Brewers then, Dan, intentionally walk Buxton. Wallner pops out, and then Larnach strikes out on a middle fastball, which was embarrassing. He is going to look at that pitch. He's going to have trouble sleeping tonight. I am so sure of it. He knows he was my Puckett's pick. You know, we've been texting back and forth about it. But no, it was a rough go. But what's important to me here is that Buxton is playing the best he's ever played. This is the best version of Buxton we have ever seen. He is healthy. He is, I don't even know. It's like, I just want to stop at healthy. Like I was going to list off all these things.
He's playing wisely, right now, isn't he? I mean, like he's making good choices.
Yes, wisely. Yeah. Yes, I think that's the way to think about it. Like he just looked at the fact that he has yet to be thrown out on a stolen base. He just seems to be the best possible version of Byron Buxton that we've wanted him to be for so long. And it's just such a bummer that the rest of the team is doing nothing. I love this because the national media, if you look, there's a lot of posts on Byron Buxton now, and you can see that other teams are taking note when they intentionally walk him, because why would you pitch to Byron Buxton, Dan? But this is what I wanted to say. You alluded to this earlier about how Buxton deserves to be an all-star. He deserves to be an all-star not because the MLB has to have a representative from each team. He deserves to be an all-star because he's an honest-to-goodness all-star right now.
Yeah, I don't think we have time to adjudicate I like that every team has to be represented in the All-Star game. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not, but
I thought we were gonna argue over that. I was bracing myself.
I like that. I think it's important that each team is represented. But what I'm saying is there's a big difference, Dan, between being an actual all-star and being there because the MLB had to include you.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure what I'm saying is, yes, Buxton is likely going to be named as an all-star, but I think he needs to be named as an all-star, not because he has to be named as an all-star because the Twins have to have a representative. He needs to be named as an all-star because he's an all-star.
He's playing better than any center fielder in baseball right now. We got to enjoy it. And like you said, it's just a shame that they're playing so poorly around him.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
What sorts of in-house moves could this team make right now, David? I was having this conversation with the guys that I was with this weekend. Jose Miranda not playing well. Eddie Julien not playing well. Austin Martin being hurt. Emmanuel Rodriguez not being available really much in AAA either. I mean, like, the other options that they have are not great. The fact that Cody Clemens is still on the roster, yes, he's played serviceably, but the fact that Deshaun Kersey's on this roster right now, like, what moves do you think that the Twins can make, if anything, internally? Is there anything you think that they can do to shake up this roster without making a trade?
No, I think that their options are so limited, Dan. I have to be honest. I wouldn't be opposed to say bring up Jose Miranda and bring up Eddie Julien and just let them work it out. It can't be worse than what we're seeing on the field right now. Like, if you showed me Eddie Julien at bat instead of Jonah Bride today when the Twins had a chance to break it open, is there really that much of a difference that we're talking about?
That's a good point,
here?
because Jose Miranda is an established, like, he's had great seasons. He had the hit streak last year. Like, he is a capable batter, you would think. You cannot tell me that you'd rather have him in the minors and Jonah Bride in the majors right now, unless there's something about Jonah Bride's throwing arm that maybe they foresee him transitioning to being a bullpen pitcher full time. But like, there's no good reason to keep Jonah Bride on this roster and keep Jose Miranda down in AAA.
I think this is sort of a bold take. It sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it sounds dumb because Jose Miranda struggled so mightily at the beginning of the year, and Eddie Julien struggled so mightily at the beginning of the year. But honestly, do something. If these guys are ever going to contribute on the team as legitimate players who are going to play every day, have them do it up here at this point. I don't really care that Cody Clemens hits a home run every 50 at bats or whatever it is. Give me one of these other guys who was supposed to be a core member of the team. Let them work through it, honestly, especially with how bad the team is right now. Maybe that's the direction we're headed anyway, that the rest of the season won't matter and these guys will come up just to see if they can work it out. But it is a little bit disappointing that I feel like a lot of these at bats that could be valuable to these guys who are struggling could be used as a bounce back as opposed to, again, Jonah Bride, Kersey Jr., Cody Clemens, whoever else, people are on this roster.
What do you have?
Yeah, so my question is, Dan, we're sort of back to where we were at the beginning of the season, where how long is Twins ownership going to be okay with this streakiness of bad baseball, good baseball, bad baseball? And is it time, Dan, that we start asking about Rocco's job?
They've won once in their last 10 games. They're 37-40 now after that 13-game winning streak that included some pretty good wins against some good teams in there too. They're in fourth place in the division. Now they're still only 2.5 out of the wild card. So it does feel weird to bring that topic up again. The only reason that, again, as I brought up before, if you think that Rocco is your manager long term, then I think you can stick with him. But it's hard to watch him get outmanaged by all of these other people lately here. I mean, Pat Murphy just clearly has the Brewers humming along and he's getting the most out of them. We saw Terry Francona, I think, getting a lot out of those Reds too. It's just, I don't like the way that the Twins are playing baseball right now. It's just kind of like, it seems lethargic. It's uninspired. And I know it was hot this weekend, but you're still in the race. You have a lot of games left. Where's the heart right now for this team? Maybe we saw some of that in Game 3 with the comeback, but it seems to always come back to Byron Buxton leading the charge. Other guys have to step up too.
Have you no joy in your life? Is there no song in your heart?
I think that the biggest problem with this Twins team is you never know what team is going to show up. Is it going to be the good pitching or the bad pitching? Is it going to be the good hitting or the bad hitting? Is it going to be the good fielding or the bad fielding? And normally, when you have a team that's successful, like the Twins were during that stretch, I would hang my hat on the fact that the Twins starting pitching was phenomenal, consistent, and reliable. None of those words apply right now to the rotation. And if you don't have an offense that can pick up the struggling pitching, you really have nothing.
Would you rather have Paul Molitor managing this team right now?
I don't know. I put so little stock, Dan, in the manager position that the only reason I ever really say, let's fire Rocco, or why I've ever said that, is just to do something. Yeah. It's that meme where I'm poking the thing with a stick, come on, do something. That's what the team needs. It needs something. And I do feel bad. I feel guilty about it when we're playing with people's lives by saying, fire the manager, not because he did a bad job, but because the team needs to do something different. But honestly, it's sort of the way of the game, Dan.
So we'll see. Maybe they can bounce back here, but now they got a 4-game series against the Mariners, who are playing quite well, or at least, and they got a player in Cal Raleigh who we're going to talk about later. But first, let's grade this series.
Series grades.
It's an F. I don't know what you want me to say here, Dan. Poor offensive showings in Game 1 and Game 2. The bullpen was an absolute joke. Even the offense in Game 3 can really be broken down to be less productive than the 8 runs that were there because of how many guys they left on base. Clearly an F, Dan. I have to think your math comes out to the same end result.
It does. A -2 on the pendulum for momentum, a 0 for decision making because I just don't think decisions made that much of a difference in this game. I think maybe, if anything, Castro's unavailability in Game 3 to pinch it for Jonah Bride in a key spot late was kind of it. The Stars, I gave a 0 because Buxton did so much, and really Joe Ryan gave him what he could, I think. But the mids, -1, the youth, -1. Nobody played well enough. All this adds up to a low number, David. That's an F.
Well, it was hot, though, Dan. It was sticky. I wouldn't have wanted to be out there playing. I had tickets to Sunday's game, and I traded them out because I didn't want to deal with the heat. But you know what's so nice, Dan? When you come in from outside on a day like this, and you want a nice, cool shower, and what should you use, Dan, to cool down in those moments? Duke Cannon hair products, Dan. They make high-quality grooming products for hardworking men. Minnesota-based with an all-new look, their clean, new packaging featuring the Big D is unmistakable on the shelves. Whether you go for a brick of soap, thick body wash, deodorant, hair care, beard care, or cologne, Duke Cannon will have you smelling your best. Look for the Big D at Target, Walmart, Amazon, or DukeCannon.com. Once you try it, you'll be hooked. Work harder, smell better, Duke Cannon.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So, Dan, I don't know, most of our listeners probably know, but you sort of split your time here, is where you are a high school English teacher, but you also write sports. And so I think that it's important here that you talk a little bit about Scott Miller and sort of what it means to be a beat writer and sort of the historical record that you're writing so many things that are consumable. They're very quickly, they're read and then they're sort of put away, but then Scott Miller sort of expanded his scope to be a well-known name in the baseball.
Yeah, so Scott Miller, he covered the Twins for the Pioneer Press in the 90s, from 94 to 99. But then he was a national beat writer. He was a national writer for a long time for a variety of different outlets. He'd written books. So he died at age 62. He had I believe he was fighting cancer. I think one interesting thing about being a beat writer, and my beat is not like a Major League Baseball. I think I've talked about this before. That's a grind. It's a lot of travel. I think especially back in the 90s, when more newspapers traveled more people. But it really becomes this community of writers who are with each other a lot. And if you follow any of the Twins beat writers now on X or on any of those other platforms, like you can see them kind of like friendly jabs at each other or conversations, because they spend a lot of time with each other at baseball games, on the road, and things like that. Some of the best compliments that you see then are from other writers who worked with Scott Miller. Phil Miller, who's not related, but he's been covering the Twins now he covered him for the Pioneer Press and then now for the Star Tribune. He just had some nice comments about just how Scott Miller was very kind and gracious to him. And I think that's really kind of the biggest mark to me of a sports writer who's not threatened by other writers. And who also just kind of sees the value in having a community of writers who want to see the craft spread and be done well, and they're not ego driven, because you do run into sports writers who are just very much about their own stuff and they don't want to talk to other guys as much, and they feel just very protective of their work. So it is sad to see a guy like Scott Miller, who was only 62 and still had a lot more writing in him, to die. So that was sad. That was sad to see him go. Certainly.
Other lighter notes, obviously, here. Devers has yet to play first for the Giants. He's nursing a groin injury. They're claiming that's why he's not playing first base, Dan. Is it possible that he didn't want to play first base with the Red Sox, and now he sort of said this in the media now that he's a Giant, but really the rationale is he's just not very good at first base, Dan?
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Maybe that's it. I mean, you don't want to mess with a groin injury. He did feel well enough to hit a home run for the Giants against the Red Sox in this series, an opposite field one too. So go figure. Speaking of home runs, Cal Raleigh now has 31 home runs. He's the first switch hitter to do that. I believe it was before the All-Star break was the stat. You can see a bunch of stats about him, but he is, I believe, in his fourth, full year as a professional with the Mariners. And man, he looks good. I think the people out here in Seattle really hope that he's not another great player that leaves the Mariners and goes on to other great things and to accomplish them in other places.
You do feel good for the Mariners, though.
Absolutely.
Right, Dan? I mean, it's been a long time since they've had success here. So it's good that they're getting some pub here and some good play out of some
And
guys.
We'll see them here. And that's a good transition here into the Puckett's Picks for the Mariners series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
Without a doubt here, the listeners took Buxton. I'm going to go with Lee, actually. Hogs, we're in a little bit of a problem here because Hogs, I think he's somewhere over the Atlantic. I don't know how planes fly. That's not exactly my specialty.
Duluth is in North Dakota.
I mean, because technically, couldn't I say that, Italy is east of us? Or I could say Italy is west of us. And either of those are true.
That's true.
They're
if you
both
go far
reasonable.
enough. But we don't know who he was going to pick is the issue here.
That's the problem. And he doesn't pick last. And so I guess, do I pick in his stead? Because you obviously would pick the person.
Sure. That would make the most sense. I think you should pick for him.
I think Correa is the safe choice, so that's what I'm going to do.
I think that's fair.
Hogs, if he doesn't win, that's good. I hope I win. No apology or anything. Just if he doesn't win, great. I hope it's me.
I mean, Correa did have a 4-hit game in Game 3 here, so he looked pretty good. I don't like any of my options here after this. Gosh. You know what? Dan Gladden's it.
Jonah Bride.
I'm not picking him. Dan Gladden said something about if he was to watch a home run derby, or if he would pick a Twins player for a home run derby, one of his picks was Harrison Bader. So I'm going to go with Harrison Bader in this series against the Mariners.
Well, it's certainly a choice. Yeah. We'll see.
I mean, look at his roster.
No.
Yeah, I don't trust Larnach with his wrist. I don't trust Matt Warner because he strikes out every other at bat. So I'm just going to go with that.
Well, we'll see what happens with this Mariners series, but I am nervous. I'm hoping to go to one or two of these games. We'll see if that actually happens. The weather's actually going to take a turn over the next couple of days. Hopefully they get all these ball games in. But I think I'm going to go ahead and send us out, Dan. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so that you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. Link in the description. Thanks for listening. And as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.